Please help me welcome Dr. David Smith.
The face of education is changing. And Piper, being a third grader, that used to be kindergarten, third grade, first, second, third grade, when we traditionally thought of as the beginning points of education. But it no longer is the beginning points of education. You know, for the last several decades, through brain research and other various research, we have learned that the brain is 90% developed by the time a young person reaches the age of 5. Think about that. 90% of the brain is developed by the time a youngster reaches the age of 5. But yet our calendar and when we choose to educate students hasn't changed for 100+ years, which I think is regrettable. I want to give you somewhat of an overview of EVSC's dedication, if you will, to early childhood education. In Vanderbilt County, there are 12,000 youngsters aged up to 5 years old. 55% would qualify for free and reduced lunch, and 36%, only 36%, have access to quality early childhood programs. Now, EVSC is currently serving 260 preschoolers. You can see the numbers listed there. I think what's important is when we say there's a wait list of over 100 children for 2013, 2014, that is without us going out and soliciting enrollment in early childhood opportunities. We also have 40 children in a tuition-based program. What that looks like in a little bit more detail, Even Start, as you may be aware, is a federal program, and we do our Even Start program in conjunction with Vincennes University at the Culver Family Learning Center. The students enrolled in this program are not our traditional students. They are students that have dropped out from school. They may be 18 years old, they may be 40 years old. One thing they have in common, actually two things, would be that they have dropped out of school and they also have children. So what they're doing now is dropping back into life, and hopefully one of the outcomes from the Even Start program will be that they obtain their GED. And you can see from the data listed that 8 have tested for the GED and 5 have actually passed the GED. We also have a program that serves teen parents. Now, these are students that have not dropped out of school, fortunately. And while it is housed at Bosse, it does not necessarily serve Bosse students. It serves students that wish to come to that program. We have 12 mothers who are also students who are enrolled in the school. And we have actually, 12 children. And we have a total of 15 mothers that have been served this school year. We also have, as I alluded to earlier, the Culver Family Learning Center, which has 160 students in 6 Title I classrooms and also 2 that we call developmental classrooms. Those students are what we might subscribe to our special needs students. Daniel Wirtz has 40 students, 1 Title I classroom, and then 1 tuition-based classroom, as we also find at Scott Elementary. And then rounding out the numbers, you see that we have a total served population of 320. And if you recall back, 12,000 kiddos from up to age 5, we really have about 2,000 students that could still use access to high quality early childhood models. There's a huge need. And just as EVSC led in full-day kindergarten more than a quarter century ago, and I find it somewhat embarrassing to state that the state of Indiana still does not fully fund full-day education or full-day kindergarten. I'm here to say that we couldn't wait another quarter century before we began our quality pre-K program. Our students can't wait. Our community can't wait. So we're investing over $1 million of funds to make certain that 320 students have access to high quality pre-K education. I want to talk about the Perry Preschool Project. This was from Epilepsy, Michigan back in 1962 to 1967. And the reason why that this type of study isn't done often is because children are selected for a control group, which means that they don't have the advantage of the other inputs. Back in 1962, they selected 123 students who were at high risk of failing in school. More than 50 students then were placed in a high-quality pre-K program because the school district in Perry School District, examined academic outcomes of its students, and they saw that the academic outcomes for students in poverty were less than stellar. So they dug down and found the root cause, and the root cause was they were receiving students that were not prepared for kindergarten. So they wanted to develop a model that was not a nursery school model, not a model that just simply focused on the social emotional aspect of learning, but one that would develop the cognitive abilities of a child. So this project has been heralded as the most important, or one of the most important research efforts to study the effects of a quality pre-K program. The high-scope participatory learning approach really is one from Piaget and also one from Dewey, so it combined those theories together. What it found in their longitudinal study was that in 2005, they looked at the individuals who were in the preschool program, ages 3 and 4, tracked them until they were age 40. Those that graduated from high school that were able to participate in that program graduated at a rate that was 31% higher than those that did not have access to that quality pre-K program. In fact, they also had higher earnings on a monthly basis, 44% higher than those that did not have access to quality pre-K. So the next bullet point is kind of a no-brainer. They were more likely to hold a job. And then finally, 33% fewer instances of crime from those that were not able to take advantage of the pre-K program. Now, unfortunately, this slide is a little bit blurry, even for me at a closer distance, but what business folk among us would not love to have a return on investment for every dollar invested of $13? And when you look at the benefits in terms of educational savings, if you look at the educational savings, that's $7,300 because they found on average that individuals that had access to high quality pre-K education spent 1.3 years less in special education. Also, those individuals, the 44% that had higher income, guess what? They paid taxes. And they also didn't use the welfare system as much. The staggering amount is this $171,000 that was not spent because of crime. So my friends, that $15,000 investment netted a benefit of nearly $200,000 per individual. And I'm not even talking about quality of life. That is why the EVSC and the Board of School Trustees, in their wisdom, have invested in early childhood. And unfortunately, Indiana is only one of 7 states that doesn't see the wisdom in that. I hope that at some point in time we find the will to invest in those individuals that can't vote and spend less money on jails and more money on kids in preschool. Next, the face of education is also changing when we look at response to intervention. Response to intervention really is a 3-tiered approach. When you look at the bottom, 80% of students should thrive in that tier 1. 80% of students should thrive in the basic classroom. And when you look at response to intervention on the left side, we talk about the academic pursuits of students. On the right side, we talk about the behavior or the social emotional. Each of these tiers is predicated upon assessments and then interventions. So if you want to liken it to healthcare, when you go to your doctor, hopefully your doctor performs some kind of assessment on you. It may simply be taking your temperature, checking your blood pressure, but then the course of action, or the intervention, if you will, then is determined by the assessment that's done. For instance, if you have a fever, if you have flu-like symptoms, you may get some type of antibiotic. The assessment would indicate then that the intervention would be perhaps an antibiotic. Now, Dr. Wharton, my mom loves to say that I'm not that kind of doctor, so if I get any of these medical facts wrong, please correct me. but it really does have a lot of analogies toward healthcare. So if we find out through the assessments that are done that we still are not achieving the outcomes that we would like, then if you look at that yellow tier, Tier 2, that's when the intervention comes into play, and that is very focused, very intentional in small groups. Once again, it can be on the academic side or on the behavior side. And then finally, if those 2-tier interventions are not successful, then we go up to Tier 3, where potentially 5% of our student population would have services rendered to them in addition to the Tier 1 service. And typically those in Tier 3 would subscribe to special education services. I know this works. This is based upon research. It's best practice. I'll show you a slide later that shows why, once again, in the wisdom of the board, they are investing in dollars early on, because we all know that if you can mitigate problems early on, you save yourself exponentially later on. This may be a little bit difficult to read, but for guys like me, I love flow charts, okay? So basically, there's an assessment here. Students, and this is green, just like the other slide was, in Tier 1. So the green is still Tier 1. Assessments are done. Instruction is undertaken. Then another assessment to make certain that the content and skills have been learned. If they have been, great, they move on. If they haven't, then you will see if they do not meet the grade level expectations, then they would advance into Tier 2 with the same type of flow that we have in Tier 1, and then the same type of flow in Tier 2. If they do not meet, then they would advance up to Tier 3. Here's what I think is important. On the other side, when students exceed advanced expectations, call it gifted, call it high ability, we also are able to advance them up through the ranks into interventions, into small group settings to continue to push them. Response intervention gets the most out of each and every child because each and every child is worthy of our best effort. So there is not a one-size-fits-all mentality, and there should not be. I don't know about you, but when I go to my doctor, I don't want my doctor to treat me like he did the person before me, because I may have different needs. Our students are no different. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between remediation and intervention. I think many times we subscribe to remediation thinking that we know what it's about. Well, really, remediation refers to some gaps in skill. Not a total lack of skills, but just some gaps in an individual's skill set. Those can all be addressed in that Tier 1 or in that basic level of instruction in the classroom. Interventions, on the other hand, are those severely deficient in skills, and not just 1 or 2 skills, but severely deficient in skills to where they can't learn the content. For instance, if you have a student that's in 6th grade history class and they are asked to read the chapter, if their skill deficit is in reading, how can they ever learn the content of history? So once again, interventions are incredibly important in addressing skill deficiencies. This is my favorite slide. If you don't pay attention to anything else, wake up and listen to this, because this is why we're doing response to intervention. You will see on screenings that some students will be at risk on early screenings. Now, these students may come to us from poverty because the research is clear. By the way, I still have yet to meet any child that is asked to be born in poverty. Never have met a child that says, oh, please, let me be born in poverty. But students that are born in poverty come to us behind, the research says, because they lack the advantages that kids that are born into means have in terms of educational opportunities and in terms of vocabulary spoken in the home. They simply come to us behind. Not their fault, not a result of our inefficient work, it's just what happens. So then what do? That's our challenge, and that's our task. Because you'll see that individuals that are at low risk on the early screening are 3/4 of a grade level in reading ahead. And what is even more frightening, if you look at the trajectory of the red line, That's the trajectory of a student that is just in a normal class. Not a bad class, not a class that's burning it up, but just a regular class. And what's frightening is after 3 or 4 years, they are now reading at a second grade level, 5th month. When they come to us behind, I'll let that sink in. Due to no fault of theirs, they come to us behind, and given the same amount of time, unless something different is done, we know what the outcome will be, and the outcome is unacceptable. Now, let's say we have a research-based best practice core instruction, okay? And we have invested heavily in our instruction and curriculum this year, and we're not done yet. But I'm incredibly proud of the work that our outstanding employees have done in this field. We have made huge strides in just 1 year. But they grow from a second grade 5th month to a 3rd grade 2 months in 4 years. Still unacceptable. Why are we doing response intervention? Why in the wisdom of the board did they say, no, we're voting yes for response intervention? My friends, this is why. When you have scientifically based interventions in instruction, then we can get that student caught up. Their life changes. I am incredibly proud to be associated with a group that values each and every human being. Whether they come to us with dirty clothes, clean clothes, privileged backgrounds, or poor backgrounds, each soul is worthy of our best effort. And we'll never apologize for giving everybody our best effort. Now, the face of education has changed once again because now we're looking at opportunities that we're providing for students that we haven't even dreamt of in the past. And the reason why I bring this up, I am blessed to speak many, many times throughout the year to civic-minded organizations, and invariably after I have finished speaking and I've talked about innovative school models, a parent comes up and says, I had no idea. So I am hopeful that I can reach 200 people today that will not say any longer, I had no idea. These are programs that the board has instituted because we know that students learn differently. We have programs that will pique the interest of every student in our area. Helfrich Park STEM Academy is a phenomenal program. Principal Tim McIntosh, raise your hand. All right. Plaza Park International Prep Academy, Shane Browder, principal, raise your hand. Okay. We also have the No Excuses University at Fairlawn Elementary because we know that if we tell kids early on that you can too go to university or college, then it's on their radar screen. But absent us doing that, they may never dream it. And what a waste. Our society needs everybody. We also have the Randall T. Shepard Academy for Law and Social Justice, and I think this is an incredible program. I know of no other program in the nation where the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court instructs students. And we are so blessed that the Honorable Shepard, the longest tenured Chief Justice of any state in our great United States, gives so much of himself, not just his name, but his talents and efforts. And because of him, we have a student last year that is now attending his alma mater, a little university called Princeton on the East Coast. Also, the Medical Professions Academy. This is a fairly new program at Central High School, and it has been received so warmly because of the successes that they've had early on that they had twice as many applicants as they had slots for next year. That, my friends, is success. I'm also pleased that Dr. Jory Barnett, who was an inductee in the 2013 Hall of Fame, believes so strongly in this program that he mentors individuals in this program. By the way, Dr. Barnett head of pharmacology at a little university down south called Vanderbilt University. And if you look closely, this gentleman has Vanderbilt written in white on that black t-shirt. I kind of like that link between EVSC and Vanderbilt. International Baccalaureate program at Boise High School. If you don't remember anything else, please remember this, that now any student in our area can attend an IB program at Boise High School on a half-day basis and then go back to their home school. What an incredible opportunity, because the outcomes that the IB program at Boise receives are the same outcomes that the world receives in terms of IB. The results are the same throughout the world, and we have this right here at Boise High School. What an incredible opportunity for students. New Tech Institute, Academies of Innovation and Entrepreneurial Leadership, project-based learning, the wave of the future, project-based learning. And then we have the Virtual Academy. Janet Leisner would have been here today, but she's presenting up in Indianapolis again for folks that are trying to understand what virtual academies are. We continue to be held up as a model in the nation for the Virtual Academy methodology that we have used to deploy the Virtual Academy. And the board just a few months ago widened the scope of our Virtual Academy from the 9 through 12 setting now through K through 12 setting. We are the leaders in Virtual Academy. And then our early college high school model. It is amazing, and I wish that this would have been there for my student when he started out, because students that go to the early college high school located at Ivy Tech, after they have attended that successfully for 4 years, have the capacity to earn 2 years of college credit. Let me say that once again for those that are starting to get ready to pay for college. Wouldn't it be great to be able to pay for only 2 years of college and obtain a 4-year baccalaureate? You can do that by going to the early college high school, because by the time they graduate from high school, they will have earned 60 hours of credit. But here's where I'd like to spend some time. Southern Indiana Career and Technical Center. Dan Ulrich oversees the entire career and technical program, has done a phenomenal job. For some reason, we don't understand in our own little neck of the woods that we have one of the best career and technical centers in the entire nation just 10 miles away from us. Let me say that again. The National Research Center for Career and Technical Education ranked the Southern Indiana Career and Technical Center as one of the top 5 centers in the nation. The principal, Corey Herron, would be here today, but he is showing that to 7 superintendents and area businessmen from the New Albany area, because they are looking at instituting a model as we have here. So naturally, where do you go to learn? You only go to learn from the best. And they are visiting the Career and Tech Center as we speak now. It's technically called the Area Career and Technical District 46. Don't ask me why, because there are not 46 throughout the state. Are there, Dan? Yes, there are. As I said, there are 46, at least 46 throughout the state. That's why Dan is seated close to me. You can see the data there. 5 counties, 7 school corporations, 19 high schools. There are 7,200 plus students in career and technical education programs in this 5-county region. 735 of those students are enrolled at the Career and Tech Center. 22 programs of study in those 8 disciplines are career clusters. Don't have to read all this. Here are 2 stats that you do need to know. 20 of the 22 programs offer nationally recognized certification opportunities for students. You know what that number was a decade ago? 2. Business and industry has said we need this, because the Career and Tech Center was formed by very forward-thinking individuals. There was a task force of 54 individuals. Back in 1996, they started a feasibility study. They did it the right way. They involved every segment of our community, educators, business leaders, manufacturing. What do you need? What will the future look like? And they created one of the top 5 career and technical centers in the nation. They did it right. They took their time. 10 years later, their Career and Tech Center opened. And we are the beneficiaries of that outstanding program. Yearly, the Department of Workforce Development published a list of the Hoosier Hot 50 jobs. I thought that poignant moment would get some laugh. Okay, Hoosier Hot 50 jobs, and we have 35 of those at some variation in the Career and Tech Center. Nearly 200 community and business and industry entities still are directly involved at the Career and Tech Center. That is huge. 200. And what type of outcomes does a partnership like that produce? Well, at Toyota Motor Manufacturing Indiana, they got together with the engineering design and precision machine students, and they developed an assembly and checking station that is used in the assembly line at Toyota. That, my friends, is a partnership where everyone wins. Also, Amy, you may be interested in this stat. We've built 26 houses.
I believe we have.
And I think you've sold 26 houses. And she lives in one. And our students, in cooperation with the trades, have built 26 houses. We've also had 50 post-secondary institutions recruit our students either for an associate's degree or for a 4-year baccalaureate degree. Now, I've tasked the good, gentle-hearted Dan Ulrich here with making certain that within a year, no time, no pressure, but within a year, Dan, I want to make certain that our students can walk across their high school class graduation. So when they graduate from high school, they'll also be able to have that industry certification that we discussed just a few minutes ago, and also an associate's degree, all in the same night. The governor just signed House Bill 1002 into law, looking at how we fill the pipeline of jobs that go begging because we don't have the skill sets in our workforce necessary to do that work. We have the answer for those coming through the system in the Career and Tech Center. We also know that Senate Bill 465 that is in the Senate looks at developing regional clusters that would fill the needs of the regions they serve. They don't have to look very far in southwestern Indiana to know that we already have that in the Career and Tech Center. But why do over 50 post-secondary institutions recruit our students? Well, I'll tell you why. Because in the past 4 years, students have received on average 3,100 dual credits per school year. That is an astounding number. They are incredibly well trained. And a stat that I think we can all take a great deal of pride in, career and technical students in the 5-county region have a high school graduation rate of 92%, but the Career and Tech Center has a graduation rate of 95.5%. Outstanding. This is not the vocational classes of old. This is an incredible program that meets the needs, the immediate needs of business and industry for those mid-skill, high-wage jobs that are a career. It's an incredible opportunity, and it resides right in our own backyard. I want to talk just briefly about strategic planning. I want you to come back next year where I'll have more than just 2 slides dedicated to this, but basically, we are undergoing our strategic plan now. We have kicked that up in earnest in the last 6 weeks, but it really has been a process that we have started at the beginning of the school year. We already have many things accomplished in terms of EVSC core values and beliefs, EVSC priorities, the theory of action, but what we're going to do with our strategic plan is basically make certain that we are guided by the following objectives. We want to make certain that our strategic plan serves as that roadmap and guidance document. I want to make certain that it empowers us to prioritize our needs and allocate resources accordingly. Done correctly, it will not only tell us what to do, but maybe more importantly in these financial times, tell us what not to do. Then it is also a mechanism which I wholeheartedly believe in that will hold us accountable because it will be aligned to quantifiable metrics. And finally, when we say it manages, we can't go to all this work and just have it sit on the shelf. We have to make certain that it is a document that guides our work. Come back next year, more than 2 slides. I do want to talk a little bit about our fiscal reality. And I won't spend much time on this because I really don't wish to spend a whole lot of time on this. But I do think it's important that we understand how schools, public schools in Indiana receive their funding, basically through three sources. And I also want you to understand the challenges that our board faces. The first type of the 3 federal funds. If you look over to the right, you'll see that that's controlled by the federal government. So even if we wanted to raise another $100 through federal funds, I don't think the federal government is inclined to give us any more than they say is our allocation. Then when you look at the basic grant, which is really our state funding, that is controlled 100% by the state government. There is no latitude, no discretion in the amount of money that we raise through the basic grant. That is all dictated by statute in the funding formula. And then finally, the levy, our property tax funds, that's the local tax. And that is controlled either by a statutory maximum tax rate through a formula that's embedded in law, or the statutory maximum levy. For instance, our bus transportation is a maximum levy. If the board wanted to raise another $100, they don't have the latitude to do that. Our capital projects is a maximum tax rate levy. If they wanted to raise another $100, they cannot do that. And when you think about a maximum tax rate, when our assessed valuation continues to decline, this year it's $6.3 billion, but had it continued to trend as was expected, it would be $9.3 billion. Just a difference of $3 billion. Think about what that does when you have a maximum tax rate. And your tax rate is on a higher assessed valuation. Many people think that when the levy drops, your taxes go up. Well, really, when you think about it, you have to think about the tax levy and the tax rate, the assessed valuation and the tax rate working in tandem. So typically when one goes up, the other goes down. So when our assessed valuation goes up, then our tax rate goes down. I'm sure that's not lost on our mayor and former mayor. Here's really what that has done for the EVSC. In our federal grants, since 2009, we have lost $6.1 million from previous levels. Okay? Since 2009, we've lost $6.1 million from previously funded levels. Basic grant, and I'll take just a minute to talk about this. In 2009, things were humming right along. Or end of 2008, they tanked, but things were still moving along. We were told by the Department of Ed, that's the DOE, that we would expect to receive $147 million. Instead, we received $140 million, which is a deficit of $7.2 million. When you look at the next year, when all of the cuts went into place, we were told by the statute, by the law, that we would receive $143 million. We received $136 million. So in that year, it's a deficit of $7 million, but when you compare it to the pre-cut level, it's a deficit of $11 million. Everybody following that line of thought? Okay, so if you extrapolate that a little bit further, if you look at just the fiscal year total, which would be lined up that way, means we've lost $21 million. But when you look at the cumulative effect of that's where we were, and then it was cut from us, you will see that we have lost $42.8 million due to cuts enacted by the governor and not restored. And then finally, property tax caps. No news, no good news there, but if you look, and this is also the shortage, so it's not 100% property tax collections. If some years we may collect 98%. In 2009, it was a shortage of what we had been told would be collected of just $168,000. 4 years later, the property tax cap itself is nearly $6 million. And in 2013, that $5.9 million is the property tax cap, not a shortage of collections. And that represents a 145% increase from the previous year. And friends, that's after we've been told by the Department of Local Government Finance that this is your budget. And then the auditor has the unenviable task of coming in and saying, oh, sorry, by the way, you're going to lose $6 million this year. And we're not alone. The city lost nearly $10 million, and the county lost, I think, $6 million. Last year we lost like $10.4 million in Vanderbilt County. This year it's $22.5 million. Now, we're not complaining. We just want you to understand that this is our fiscal reality, okay? And I really didn't want to spend any time on this because this is not our story. But I think it's important for you to see, however you want to look at the state basic grant shortage, we've either lost $40 million over 4 years, or we've really lost the ability to use $62 million over a 4-year period of time over previous funding levels. Now, I was blessed with great parents, and they told me a lot of things. And I'm just going to bait you into paying attention to one more slide. So remember that when I come back, because I want to talk to you about some of the ways that we have basically conducted ourselves. Some people, some businesses, some schools would just do a flat across-the-board reduction in spending, right? And I understand that. But what happens when you do an across-the-board cut? You cut some things that are incredibly valuable. And you cut some things that probably you should cut altogether. We have taken the approach that we're going to remain true to our core mission. So we have reduced our expenditures by a variety of ways, but I love this slide. And I, by the way, did not put this data together, so this is not my work. But if you look at 2006, we had an MGT study, if you recall that, I think many of you will, that looked at the school corporation, did a diagnostic of where we were, and in 2006, we spent on average of $838 for every student that was enrolled at EVSC on central office functions. Okay, I'll say that again. For all the students that we had in 2006, we spent about $838 for central office functions, okay, per student. Now, what's interesting, in 2012, our enrollment's virtually the same as it was in 2006. But look at the expenditure per person. It's dropped to $442. What makes this even more important, or more incredible, I think, when you look at the $838, if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and go to the CPI, Consumer Price Index calculator, and kick in $838 in 2006 and see what it is in 2012 dollars, it's $954. So we've gone from spending $954 per student on central office to $442. And we have driven the savings into the classroom. Not one single person has lost a job. Not one single class size is larger. We have worked diligently to protect the core of our business, which is educating students. There are a lot of positions that we haven't filled. We've reduced the plan, changed the plan design for health insurance 2 times. Not a single student has had a negative impact. In fact, we've even grown programs because our students deserve it. So let me take you back to my parents. I was blessed, and said this, I don't know how many times in my Sunday school class, to be blessed to be born to my parents. They told me, you know what? You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And this is how we've responded. We will never be defined by the negative. So we don't have the money we used to have. We'll deal with it. And we'll make certain that we continue to lift up our employees and give kids in our community the best education they can possibly receive. And that work can't be done by just me or by the talented people that you see here. I find this incredible. This next slide. Megan, would you stand, please? Megan, Peabody Award winner, Hufford Park. Congratulations. Megan's joined by Jessica Hopkins, Amy Bolenberger. We also have, Karen, before you leave, I saw you sneak in, another great board member, Karen Ragland. Thank you for being here. Gwen Barnett, semifinalist for Teacher of the Year in the entire state. Brian Perry, Principal of the Year. Doug Mills, Principal of the Year, Sheila Huff. The 2013 Indiana Excellence in Education Award from Advanced Ed. You know how many they awarded those in the state? 1. And also, I think we may be familiar with the Paul Harris Fellow, given to her by the Morning Rotary. Brian Spear, Coach of the Year. Andre Thomas, Coach of the Year. Sherry Ocker, Jefferson Award winner. Teacher at Highland. Beth Johns, Outstanding Principal. Is Beth here? I didn't see her. There's Beth. Hi, Beth. You need to stand up, Beth. There you go. Stephanie Still, if you'd stand, please. This is the 3rd year that Plaza has achieved either Teacher of the Year or Principal of the Year. Congratulations, Stephanie. And then Terry Standers, the Outstanding High School Teacher of the Year from Wrights High School. Congratulations, Terry. And then finally, I want to end once again with a statement. I am incredibly blessed to work with outstanding people. We get it done. There are a lot of people that want to be naysayers or whatever, but you know, we can either turn our attention to the negative or we can continue to lead. And I guarantee you, the future has never been brighter, in my view, for EVSC. I am incredibly enthused about the long-term investments our board has made. Response intervention, we've rolled that out in reading for K through 2. It's going to take a while for that to roll out, but they are looking at the long-term interest of our community. Early childhood, they're leading once again. So thank you, board. I am incredibly humbled and honored, and I know our future is incredibly bright. Thank you.
Thank you.